Okay, this Board of Trustees reconvene the Paris Union High School District regular board meeting at 5:50 p.m. And we have also our Pledge of Allegiance, if you can please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can please, for a moment of silence.
A moment of silence for all of those affected by any of our national tragedies or any health issues. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next item is this regular board meeting is going to go into recess to continue the regular meeting of the California Military Institute at 5:52 p.m. Okay. 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 The regular board meeting of Perus Union High School District reconvenes at 6:04 p.m. And our first item is 8.1, is an action item, revision and adoption of the agenda for today. Do I have a motion?
Just one thing on this, Dr. Rao.
Yes.
We would like to pull the report of oral report 12.1 on CTE programs this month. We'll bring it back next month. Miss Martin is ill and couldn't be here. She's our CTE guru, and so she wouldn't be able to be here to do her presentation tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. So if we can please vote with the understanding that we are pulling out item 12.1, you said?
12.1.
12.1. Ms. Twyman? Yes. Yeah, I had put you. Yeah, I put Ms. Twyman. I changed it to Ms. Twyman. So first Mr. Stafford and then Ms. Twyman. Please vote. And the agenda for today's meeting has been approved, 5-0. 9.1, information item, report out of closed session. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, I have one item to report this evening. In closed session by a vote of 5-0, the Board of Trustees approved the retirement resignation agreement with classified employee number 148140. That concludes the closed session report.
Thank you, sir. 9.2 is a district update by our superintendent.
I have a few items. Last week we had employee recognition night, and it was the HR department and the recognition committee did a great job putting it on. It was a nice event over at the Orange Empire Rail Museum this year for the first time. And everyone seemed to have a really good time. The food was really good. Had barbecue, and it was good stuff. So we had a nice event over there. Also last week, we hosted a Paris Valley Chamber of Commerce mixer over at Paris High School to kind of show off some of the new buildings. We got to take some of the community on a tour of the new buildings over there, show them what's going on. We had students there. Our culinary program was there serving food, and the ag kids were there, and who else was there? The medical class were there showing what they're doing. And robotics, Mr. Hayes with his class, just to be able to show off some of the good things going on as we're showing off, as we're working, sharing information about the possibility of doing a school bond. So it was a nice event. And thank you to all the kids and the teachers that were there to help put that on. Over the last 3 weeks or so, I'm going to steal some of the Pluma Valley Girls stuff, but getting to go to watch the girls soccer team play and winning CIF championship over in Corona was awesome. And then also, they made it to. Yeah. You can repeat that, but and yesterday I got to have a really good day because I got to go meet with the girls and bring the Jostens rep to order their championship rings. So they were excited about that. It was fun to be there. Last Saturday was the Saturday before, Panther Sports Challenge. The Saturday before. I'm over at Paris High School. It was a great program put on by our special ed department for those students and help them. And it's such a neat program. I couldn't be there that day. I was at a superintendent training. But in the past, when I've been able to participate in those, it's better for the kids that are not in the special ed program, that are the mentors for the other kids. You just see the excitement that goes on. But do I steal your thing, Cindy, right now? Okay. One of the coolest things that happened, Miss Barra shared with me, is there was one set of team cheerleaders there. The Paris High cheerleaders were there. And what they did is they cheered for all the other schools too. They did Paloma Valley cheers, cheering on those kids from Paloma Valley. They did Heritage cheers. They did Paris cheers. So not just for their own school, to step out and do that for the other kids was really cool to see, and we're really proud of the kids over at Paris High for doing that. It was really made a big deal for those kids that were participating. Where am I now? Oh, our district was just recognized as a Common Sense Media digital citizenship for digital citizenship. I think we're one of the few districts around that have that, right, Mr. Williams? And that has to do with teaching students what they should and shouldn't be doing with online and things like that. So it's a cool thing. Today, just before the board meeting, I was down in Marietta meeting with about 8 other superintendents with Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez, talking about school safety and security and things. So it was good to hear that she's trying to do some things to help out and want to know what we need and what we're looking at. And so it was a really good meeting. They're having a follow-up coming up too. So we'll continue that work, trying to get help from the state on what we're trying to do to keep our schools safe and secure. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. 9.3 is student representatives to the Board of Trustees. Trustee Stafford.
From Heritage High School, we have student representatives Elena Ruiz and Ashley Garcia.
Good evening, President Haro, members of the board, Mr. Bennett, and members of the cabinet. My name is Ashley Garcia,
And I'm Elena Ruiz.
and here are some of the things going on at Heritage High School since we last saw you.
We had our annual Morph Dance this past month, complete with snack bar, trail truck, photo booth, movie room, game truck, laser maze, and lots of dancing.
We had our annual FAFSA fiesta for our seniors that completed their financial aid application. We had about 84% of students complete their FAFSA. The fiesta had live music, piñatas, prizes, and other fun activities.
We have been doing presentations at the middle schools for our incoming freshmen. Mr. Washburn, our ASB director, athletic directors, and students have been talking about all our different programs. 8th graders are excited to be a part of our Patriot family.
Last week, we took a group of parents and students to UCR. Parents got a chance to experience college with their children and ask many questions to help them prepare for the college life.
Our dance showcase was a hit last week. Ms. Burns did a great job at preparing our dancers, and we had a great turnout from our community.
We had a Spanish spelling bee hosted by the World Languages Department. Congratulations to our first and second place winners, Andres Tapia and Jorge Aragon Pacheco, who are pictured here standing with Spanish teachers, Ms. Arau and Mr. Tapia.
Our plant supervisor, Mr. Marvin Frias, and our assistant principal, Ms. Erica Tejeda, were recognized at the Southern Regional FFA Awards Banquet. They received a Star Award for their support of our ag program.
Congratulations to our Student of the Month, Jamar Mandak. Jamar is very involved in ASB and contributes greatly to a positive school environment.
We had several student athletes recognized for committing to participate in college sports. Congrats to Skylar McIntyre, who will be playing volleyball, Caitlin Thomas, who will be swimming at Concordia Irvine, Sherrod White, who signed with Montana State, Avante Robbs, who signed with Dixie State, and Jesse Estrada, who signed with College of Idaho.
Our students participated in the UCR Girls in STEM conference. They did lots of hands-on learning activities and it was a fun experience for everyone.
Also, Project Lead the Way Biome students attended the Health Professionals Conference at Cal Baptist University.
HHS mock trial had its third competition as defense attorneys against Temecula Preparatory High School at Riverside Hall of Justice. Our defendant was found not guilty.
5 of our students were honored at the Black History celebration put on by the Paris Valley Black History Committee. The students were Adem Sador, Latrell Rogers, Jamari Pitts, Camille Taylor, and Francis Dogani.
Mayor Vargas from Paris and Mayor Winter from Menifee came for a visit. They were very impressed with our academic programs and different offerings for students at Heritage High School.
Some of our upcoming activities are Patriot Olympics this Friday at 5 p.m. in our stadium, open house and 8th grade orientation on April 10th, and April 14th is our VIP prom for our special education students.
So that's it for today. We hope you can make it to some of our events, and we thank you for letting us talk to you about some of the Heritage High news. Have a good night. Oh, and thank you for the sandwiches.
Trustee Twyman.
From Paloma High School, we have Marizelle Karen and Michaela Castro.
Good evening, board. My name is Marisol.
I'm Michaela. Good evening. Our winter sports all had fantastic seasons. Our boys basketball won league champs for the first time in school history. Our boys soccer team had a great season and were also league champs. Girls water polo made school history, making it to CIF for the first time, and boys and girls wrestling earned league champs and sent 2 people to state.
Girls soccer had an incredible season, winning 26 games, scoring 132 total goals, and only letting 8 goals. They were CIF champs and made it all the way to the state championship, where they played against Ventura High School. We're so proud of them and can't wait to see what they can do next year.
Our NJROTC won first place at the state competition, and they're now preparing to fly out to Florida over spring break to compete at nationals. Wish them the best of luck and can't wait to see the amazing things they accomplish there.
On Friday morning, the Wildcat Brigade led our NJROTC and our girls soccer team around the school in a celebratory parade so we can honor and celebrate their big achievements as a school.
Ms. Solis and the counseling staff put together a financial aid fair for all the seniors who filled out their FAFSA. They raffled off a wide variety of cool prizes like a mini fridge, a bike, $100 gift cards, grad night tickets, prom tickets, and other cool stuff. They also provided a taco truck for all the seniors that attended.
The Morp Spirit Week and Pep Rally was at the beginning of the month, and we recognized our spring sports and performance groups at the rally. The theme this year was Wizard of Oz, and after all of ASB's hard work, the Pep Rally was a big success.
On March 14th, the students participated in the nationwide walkout in honor of the 17 students who passed away in the Florida shooting. A couple of students planned out and led the walk to our outside amphitheater, where the students took a moment of silence and spoke at the topics at hand.
Plus, in the Sports Challenger, participants of Paloma had a great time at their annual Special Olympics. It was held at Paris High School, and all of those involved enjoyed it and hope to attend next year.
For our upcoming events, Mr. Paloma is on April 13th, and the junior class is getting ready to put on a great show. Selected ASB students are ready to attend an overnight leadership conference at the beginning of April, and prom is quickly approaching, and we're all very excited about it.
And that's it for our March updates. Thank you.
Trustee Ellison.
From Paris High School, student representatives Brisa Cardenas and Victoria Nuno.
Good evening, President Ross and board members, Superintendent Bennett, and Cabinet. I'm Victoria Nuno.
And I'm Brisa Cardenas.
And unfortunately, due to JRTC's recent trip to JCLC camp, I am unable to speak, so I would like to throw it over to my colleague.
Right, so it has been 2 months since we had last met, and in the interest of time and so many awesome activities that have taken place, we condensed them down to our very own top 10, in no particular order. Number 1 was the blood drive. We completed our second out of 3 blood drives for this school year. Results from our second drive include 133 donors, 50 of them were first-time donors, and we collected 120 units. All in all, it was a great drive. The number 2, Young Men's Conference. Mr. Santos and the ASB president and the ASB vice president, along with 7 other classmates, attended a Young Men's Conference in San Diego. Students said it was a good experience and provided feedback to Mr. Santos for a potential conference to be held on our campus. Number 3, Teen Safe Driving Awards Check. We already reported our success at winning the Teen Safe Driving Challenge back in January. In February, Allstate came to Paris High to present an oversized check for $1,500, and they took some photos. If you follow us on Twitter at ParisHigh_ASB, you may have seen the pictures. Number 4, our senior panoramic. It just keeps getting better each year. It becomes a rite of passage. Seniors once again gather on the field for the senior panoramic photo, forming the number 18. Student groups who came out in themed shirts were also photographed and will be placed in the yearbook with a panoramic picture. And another thing was that it only took us 1 shot, so that was a good thing. Number 5, mental health fair. Plus leadership, students reached out to mental health providers across Riverside County and brought 8 different organizations to our campus who provided service and information and with handouts, emergency cards, and other giveaways for over 500 students on February 13th during our Kindness Week. Plus, we'll also be hosting another mental health fair on campus on May 23rd. The list of providers has expanded, and our students are reaching out to more providers across Riverside County. With the recent school shootings in Florida, mental health has become a hot topic, and we are happy to have Plus leading the way at Paris High. Number 6, Spring Rally and Sadie Hawkins. The Spring Rally was one of the most fun-filled rallies. I didn't faint. To highlight our amazing Avid department and to show their class pride, Avid grade levels classes competed against each other during the rally in the class competitions. They had a lip sync battle that required them to lip sync an 80s song. Students and Avid tutors were even dressed the part and danced during their performance. By the way, our senior ones. Later that night, we had the largest crowd to date for our spring dance, totally 80s Sadies. Activities included dancing, virtual reality booths, which was really funny to watch, Mario Karts, and 80s video games. Number 7, our 8th grade electives fair. Penacati and Innovative visited our campus in the large gym. We treated them to a mini rally that included cheer, band, ROTC, dance, folklore, and link crew. Overall, it was a great experience. They were so filled with energy. It reminds me of me.
At the beginning.
In the beginning. In the small gym, there was over 40 clubs, teams, and academic classes that participated in the fair portion of the visit, giving the 8th graders a taste of what Paris High had to offer. Number 8, Sports Challenge. Rain couldn't stop our sports challenge. The skies opened up sooner than expected, so everyone grabbed what they could and carried it over to the gym. Then the sports challenge continued for the rest of the morning. Thank you to all the schools who came over to help make it a very special day. Number 9, PMS Graduation Matters with Link Crew and ASB. Link Crew and ASB recently spent the day at Penacati, where they visited and presented to every 8th grade PE class topics that included the importance of promoting graduation and college, and was presented by Link Crew. Students' testimonials were overcoming adversities were shared in an effort to inspire. ASB talked about the importance of becoming more connected to school with activities. Employees of the Month, which is number 10. Shoshone Carr is our classified employee of the month. She is a great help to us seniors in finding scholarships for college because, wow. Heather Avila is our certified employee of the month. She not only teaches English but is an important piece of our community engagement center, helping to make community and college one. Also, number 11. I got accepted to 2 of my top dream colleges, and my Avid graduation is April 21st. I'm just saying it, not like, well, like you guys could come if you guys want to, but because it just goes to show that we're already close to the end of the year, and we'll be leaving. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Brisa and Victoria, and congratulations on your acceptance to one of your top universities. Victoria, we hope you feel better.
And from Pinacati Middle School, student representatives Janelli Meza Vergara and Henry Aguirre.
Good evening, President Arax, members of the board, Mr. Bennett, and cabinet members. Also, happy spring. I am Pinacati's ASB President, Janelli Meza Vergara, and with me tonight is Henry Aguirre, our Vice President.
Avid had their first Dress for Success on February 12th, Sharp Looking Bunch.
Webb hosted their first assemblies for our 7th graders.
The District Poetry Slam was a great event.
Pinacati students took 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places. Great job, Pumas!
On March 2nd, ASB held a birthday celebration in honor of Dr. Seuss's birthday and Read Across America. We played Pin the Red on the Cat in the Hat's Hat, hula hoops, musical chairs, and soundtracks from Seussical. We asked every student who are they Thing 1 or Thing 2 and gave them their number badge.
On March 7th, 8th graders visited Paris High School to learn more about the classes, clubs, and electives, and many more things Paris High School has to offer.
Last Friday, 50 drama and band students took a field trip to the California Theater of the Arts in San Bernardino to see a live performance of Beauty and the Beast. What a great experience in the live theater. Students had the opportunity to speak to the musicians in the pit before the show began. Our Pumas were the best behaved group in the whole balcony.
On the evening of March 16th, Rosalind Alvarado, who is in Mr. Lee's art class, received her Artistic Merit Award medal at the Riverside District PTA Arts Reflections Award ceremony. The ceremony was held at Vistas Marietta High School to honor almost 100 students from more than 50 schools from all over Riverside's county districts.
Soccer season has just begun and the boys recently won their first game.
Paris High Link Crew visited Pinacati to share what Link Crew is all about with the Puma Web students.
Dare to Dream came to give us a motivational presentation.
Our closing thought for the spring's evening is turn your cans into cans and your dreams into plans. Thank you for your kind attention and have a great Puma month.
Okay, now from Paris Lake High School, let's welcome student representatives Israel Anguiano, Destiny Casillas, Caleb Cook, Delilah Delgado, and Jada Dunham.
Good evening, governing board and cabinet members. My name is Caleb Cook. I am a member of Paris Lake Falcons ASB. Standing next to me are my fellow ASB members, Jada Dunham, Delilah Delgado, Destiny Casillas, and Israel Anguino. I want to thank the governing board, cabinet, and Superintendent Bennett for inviting us here and sharing the events at Paris Lake. The Western Association of Schools and Colleges is responsible for the accreditation of public and private schools, universities, and colleges. The WASC committee spent a day at Paris Lake and had a lunch with the committee of students to discuss their feelings about the school. They also had a discussion about what should be added in order to improve Paris Lake. In the end, it was a good report from Paris Lake. College and career field trips took place on our campus. These trips included the Paul Mitchell School of Beauty and the Art Institute of California. Many thanks to Mr. Bryant for coordinating these trips and the staff that accompanied us. Some more pictures of the field trips. On March 14th, some students participated peacefully in the walk for 17 minutes in memory of the 17 Parkland High School students that passed away. Our ASB group tied ribbons around 17 trees and created ribbons on the gate made of tissue paper flowers. A poster with each of their photos and names on it was made and put up. Paris Lake's ASB created a video focused on bullying and suicide prevention. Our goal is reaching out to the youth. With Mr. Bryant's help, we recorded videos, interviews, and recreations on the topic. This video was created sharing personal stories and recreating events that will be presented to schools locally to reach out to our youth and give them hope, help, and options.
Students at Paris Lake High received an award for their academic accomplishments and attendance along with a certificate. They received special lunch such as hot dogs and hamburgers. Also, they got raffle tickets and won prizes. In the month of February, one of our peers, Dakota Ciola, earned the District Student of the Month award for his incredible leadership and academic excellence. He finished his requirements for graduation at the end of the second trimester in early March. In February, our ASB also held a ceremony to recognize the other students of the school that excelled in academics and leadership. Students received a certificate, a goodie bag, nachos, and recognition for their hard work. The employees for the month are Robert Bryant, our Think Together coordinator, and Martha Puente, English teacher, ASB advisor. Lastly, we invite you to our open house this Thursday at 6 p.m. Bring an umbrella, as it could be a wet one.
Thank you to our governing board and cabinet members and Superintendent Bennett. Have a wonderful evening.
And now from Scholar Plus Online Learning, we have Student Representative Quest Addison. Oh, okay, well, we'll see them another time then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stafford. Our next item is an information item, 9.4, CSEA President Helen Steinmack.
Good evening, President Dr. Rao, members of the board, Superintendent Mr. Bennett, and Cabinet. We've had many discussions and negotiation sessions with the district since I last spoke to you. I hate to sound like a broken record, but we continue to have a very good relationship with the district. I guess a broken record is good in this case. Not to say we don't have moments where we all forget to follow the process and the lines become blurred, but ultimately we remain focused to achieve the goals we have set at the table. We are extremely pleased to have come to an agreement for our health and welfare after many agonizing months, and we are anxiously awaiting for it to be finalized in the 610 process before we can bring this to the classified bargaining unit for ratification. The Employee Recognition Night was a phenomenal success, mostly due to the organization by the committee and to our superintendent's unintended wit. We are very fortunate to have a district that honors and recognizes its members for the work we do. Thank you for holding an event to make us feel appreciated. We are grateful to the district and the board to offer our members a retirement stimulus plan. Since the deadline is Friday, I cannot yet venture a guess on how many of our classified staff will avail of this opportunity. I myself, being as young as I am, was also offered the plan. But I am nowhere near ready to make that commitment, as I have much more to accomplish to be part of Paris Union High School District. There are many more items still left on the negotiating table that need to be addressed, and we hope that in using the process of interspace bargaining to bring about resolutions, that our story can and will be heard loud and clear. Hopefully, some of those hard discussions will find a way to a collaborative solution. There's always more to come, and we can find more records to break as March Madness continues. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbach. Next item, 9.5, PSEA President, Ms. Vicky Mueller.
Good evening, Dr. Arrow, board members, Mr. Bennett, and cabinet. First off, I want to say thank you for sponsoring the Good Teaching Conference. I don't remember exactly how many teachers went, but the sessions were informational, from classroom management to equity and access and assessment to ESSA. Bullying resources and interventions to prevent bullying, critical thinking strategies, several focused on students with special needs, and there were some for stress reduction for teachers, and they even provided massages for teachers. I got mine twice. Next year, CTA will be offering 2 conferences geared to new teachers. One will be held in December, and one will be held in the spring. It'll be in the same vein of classroom management, organization, and those types of things for new teachers so that we don't see that burnout. PSEA took lunch to teachers on Friday, March 9th. We had penne pasta with meat sauce and Alfredo sauce and breadsticks and salad. And tomorrow, or Friday, we're going to be at Paris Lake and the online learning. In May, we have Teacher Appreciation Week coming up, and so we're starting to plan that. April 27th, we are sponsoring a storm day. We purchased 100 tickets. We thought it was going to take us a couple weeks to get rid of the tickets. They were free to members, and we were out in 5 days. We're done. So it was really fast. So if the district wanted to pick up 100 tickets, I'm sure we could get another 100 people in the park that night. We have PSEA members attending another conference in San Diego in April. We're sending one of our members to an Equity and Human Rights Conference in Sacramento. I forgot what date that is, though. I also want to mention that I know that we're getting close, but we're hoping that Tony Thurmond, he's running for state superintendent, and he was one of the speakers, and very exciting to hear him speak, and we're CTA is endorsing him for state superintendent of public instruction. I'm going down my list here. Sorry, I have a lot. I'm going to talk about, again, student safety and staff safety. And we understand you're working on it. And one of the things that was said to me was, well, let's just hope something doesn't happen while we're working on it. So I just think that we need to treat this with a little bit more urgency in light of another school shooting this week. And there was a school stabbing that somehow didn't make the news, but something like 20 kids were injured in a school stabbing. So it doesn't have to always be a gun. We also need to do something about mental health services. We have a lot of kids struggling. You know, we live in a world that's so different than what we grew up in. And online bullying, our kids just come to us with so much baggage. They have loss, they have depression, and the bullying that's in place that we're just not able to give them the services that they really need. I referred a student way back, and she's not special ed, so that's just like we don't always get to them. So, I mean, we do the best we can, but sometimes it's not enough. So I'm going to leave you with this on student discipline. That's my last one. We teach our students how to behave by what we allow, by what we stop, what we ignore, and what we reinforce. What are we teaching our students today? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Before I invite and give the opportunity to the students to leave the meeting, if you would like desire to do so, before doing that, I just would like to share with you some items that I wrote here that I would like the students to hear, because usually you leave at the early stages of the meeting and you don't have the opportunity. So first of all, I want to congratulate the students from Paris High School that they were here during the last board meeting, talking and making a request about their math class, their high-level math class, Calculus BC, if I remember correctly. So if one of you are here, or if the principal can take this message, that concern has been addressed successfully, and I'm really glad that they are going to be able to take that class, Calculus BC. And I'm very proud when I hear and when I see students. Honestly, this is one of the few times that I have seen that, so I'm glad of seeing that trend of the students. I'm a firm believer and supporter of hearing student voices, supporting what the students have to share with us. A lot of times we focus on only on the adults, teachers, community members, but our students are a very important part of our community, and you have an excellent perspective. So very proud of the students. Also during the presentations of our students' reps, you mentioned about the peaceful walkouts. So that also tells me a lot about the character of my students here at Paris, and your sensibility, and to honor the memory of the 17 victims of the Florida shooting. Also, not only focusing on that, but looking at potential solutions for that and making recommendations. So I encourage you to share with us the concerns and the recommendations. I have a student, I don't know if that student is here, from Paloma Valley, who sent an email to me with a concern, but also I was very impressed with that email, addressing the challenge, but also making the recommendations of potential solutions. What is what you can do as the district, and what is what you can do as a board. So I can tell that student, if she's not here and I want to send a response, that I share those concerns with the board members, the rest of the board, and with our superintendent. Really thoughtful comments, and very proud of the thinking and the perspective that student has on that. So I encourage more students to share that with us via email or here during our board meetings. Your voices are very important from the student's perspective. Also, our teachers' voices are really important. I had the opportunity to attend the conference with the Miss Vicky Mueller was talking about, sponsored by CTA, good teaching practices. And during one of the opportunities that I have to interact with some of the teachers, they make some recommendations in terms of professional development to support our students. So I'm proud of the teachers that say, this is what we want to do, help us do that. So I shared those recommendations already with Mr. Bennett. He took note of that, and I'm sure that we are going to be working on addressing and providing that support that our teachers are asking for. Also, I had the opportunity to visit all of our schools throughout the district with trustee Stafford. We were able to observe excellent things, great things in the classroom, in the school, but also I want to know our students, I want you to know that we observe some room for improvement in the services that we can provide to you. So we can really not only talk, not only use words, that we are committed to provide the safest and cleanest educational environment for you. We identify areas of improvement, and we are acting on that. I already shared that with our superintendent, and we want to ensure that you receive the services in the schools that you really deserve, so you can continue with your education. So I want to share that with you. And lastly, very proud of everybody, of all the community teachers and students in this specific area that are being part of the solution and working together. So the comments from the president of classified employees, that we have this excellent relationship with the district, that is telling us that we are on the same page, and working together, we are going to be able to serve our students in the best possible way. That is our common ground. That is, we share the same objective, right? Our same goal, that is to help the students. Okay. That was my message for the students and for all the stakeholders who are here, who would like to leave this board meeting at this time before we proceed, so we can take a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Risa, let's go. I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you. We are going to continue with our board meeting, and the next item is an information item, 10.1, invitation to address the Board of Trustees on agendized and non-agendized items. We don't have any takers today. Thank you. 11.1 is a action item, our consent calendar. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Stafford, second. Please vote. And today's consent calendar has been approved 5-0. 12.1 is an information item, bond feasibility and planning update. Oh, that's the one. But this is 12.1.
Yeah, she pulled it, so it moved 12.
Oh, okay, so everything moved up. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay.
Give me a
This
small
is
heart
tough.
attack.
Perfect.
Board of Trustees, as we've indicated on your governance calendar, as we embark on this important study in terms of the potential bond measure at every other board meeting, we're having Joy Tatarka, make your way forward, our consultant from TBWB Strategies, provide us an update on where we are.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, cabinet. Just a quick update again about what we've been doing since the last time I was here. It's been a couple months anyway. So I always come back to this basic timeline. Just, I show it each time. It helps us really see where we are in the process and, understand current items that are taking place at each step along the way. Of course, we've already done our initial feasibility study. The board is looking at doing a tracking survey before you would ultimately decide whether this would go on the ballot or not. But right now, we're right in that middle black stage where we're continuing to do regular outreach and communication to the community to find out if this is feasible, if this is something that the community is interested in pursuing, and if there is support and interest in this as we go along. Most of this we talked about last time, really sort of just going by a month-by-month basis. And I think it's always helpful because it's easy to feel like, oh, we just started this last week. Well, actually, we've been working on this much longer than that, but just most recently, since October of 2017, when we started talking about doing a survey and looking at a potential bond for November of 2018. During that time, we have developed a lot of informational materials that have been used at regular meetings, including the first town hall that was already conducted. That was at Paris High School on March 1st. We are beginning to work with the district's council and many of the other people that are involved to start pulling together the project list, the resolution, the legal documents that ultimately the board would need to decide on. We have sent out a first informational piece, and I'll go through a little bit of information that we actually collected back from the community on that. But we had a tear-off survey that asked people in the community questions about their priorities and if the district needed additional funding, and I'll show that to you. The second informational mail piece that would go out in late March or early April would actually be a report back to the community saying, thank you for taking the time to take this survey and providing your input. And here's what we heard from you. So it's another way for us to show that we're listening to people in the community. There is a second town hall meeting coming up at Paloma. That's on March 26th. And then the third and final town hall meeting that is scheduled at this time will be in Menifee at the Bell Mountain Middle School on April 12th. In the meantime, we're also beginning work on that tracking survey just to see where people are on the community as compared to that original survey. In May, right now we are scheduled to show what the results of that tracking survey would be during your May meeting. And there'll be a recommendation at that time whether or not we should bring forward a resolution for the board to consider.
Joy, if I could just, would you mind going back just to that slide? In May, what we had hoped to recommend to you tonight is because we would be presenting the results of that tracking survey, and because the following month the board would be asked to make a decision that maybe a little bit more time was due to that presentation and discussion than during the regular board meeting. And so if it's the board's desire, we could do perhaps a study session before the regular meeting so that we could spend the appropriate amount of time. Okay. Yeah, probably, I would say 2 hours. I mean, I'd like to say an hour, but you just never know with the questions, discussion. We would have Tim McLarney, did I say that right?
Yes.
Come and actually present those results to you. And so I think just to allow the appropriate amount of time, we should think about 2 hours. So maybe starting at 1:30, assuming closed session would start at 3:30. Yeah, just right before the regular board meeting. Yes, if that's all right. Okay.
I do think there'll be a lot of information and things to consider at that point because you will be ultimately making a decision whether to bring a resolution forward, and it might be helpful to be able to answer and ask questions that are specific to that topic. And then in June, right now, we are targeting your June meeting for when a potential resolution could come forward for a decision. There are some items that are that could be considered that you may want to actually look at a July meeting, and I'll be going through that in a moment. But right now, we are targeting your regularly scheduled June meeting. This is just a little bit of information from the community survey responses that were received so far from that mailer that went out to all registered voters in the entire district, plus all parents and staff, regardless of whether they were registered to vote. We wanted to get a very comprehensive understanding of how people were feeling about this. It's important to remember that this is non-scientific. It's not the same as the poll that Dr. McLarney does. It's rather just an opportunity for anybody to provide any input at all. So far to date, there have been 459 surveys. 199 of them were completed online, and 260 were mailed in. Kind of a summary of the responses right now. The top one, of course, was upgrading career training facilities, improving student safety and campus security systems. Obviously, recent news, I think, has made that on the top of a lot of people's minds. And so student safety, we are seeing, gets a little bit of a bump right now. Hard to say if that will stay or not, but it's certainly something people are thinking about. Providing modern classrooms and facilities, building a new high school in Menifee to relieve overcrowding. And you can see all of these items really, except for the bottom two, just smaller things, are well above the top, 70% range. And even the bottom one, talking about the final phase of construction at Paris High School, is at 65%. For a bond to pass, you only require 55% approval, but obviously the majority of people who are taking the time to fill out this survey care about these items and care about the things that you're considering when you're talking about this bond. We also asked people, it was a very open-ended question, do you think new funding sources are needed at the high school to deal with these facilities issues? And 64.4% said yes, absolutely. So AB 195 was a law that was passed in January, and it required some additional information in ballot, that 75-word statement that ultimately people vote on when they go to the ballot box. Currently, the ballot question says that you have to include the authorized amount of the bond. So in this case, we'd be talking about that $149 million, the name of the school district, and a brief list of the projects and what those would be. So if you remember correctly, we sort of talked about our top projects. We said, shall Paris Union High School District issue $149 million at legal interest rates? All money stays local with citizens' oversight. And we asked people yes or no. The new law that is effective January 1st, 2018, required that in addition, in that 75-word statement, that you also include the estimated annual tax collection, the tax rate, and the duration of tax. Now, this is something that's very common with like parcel taxes and to some degree sales taxes. It doesn't really make as much sense when you're talking about bonds because it's hard to know the exact amount. We're relying on assessed valuation and many other factors. So the legislature is currently working on a fix. They're working on an emergency legislation that could be finalized as soon as May that would have an exemption for GO bonds, which is the type that you would have here. So if it is finalized, which they are hoping to do by June of 2018, then our question would be very similar to what we tested the first time in our first voter survey. If for some reason this fix doesn't happen, we would be required to add this additional AB 195 language. Our latest information says, again, that they're looking at emergency legislation that would fix this by May. But the backup plan would be to include it in the budget as a rider, which would be finalized likely by June, early July at the latest. This is why, just going back to my previous statement, why we're planning for a June election, or a June vote, not a June election, a June vote on whether to place the resolution, or whether to place the bond on the ballot for a November election. But if this wasn't decided, we would recommend that the board wait, because you wouldn't know the ballot language that you would be required to have on the ballot. And we would like you to have the most reasonable and most appropriate language on the ballot. So that is the only reason we would consider a July meeting over your June regularly scheduled meeting, is so that we would be able to incorporate what the law changes would be.
And as we're getting more and more information on this, we've been talking with bond counsel as well about some options. And so there might be options where the board could adopt a resolution that includes the previous language, but, authorizes us to, include the new pieces, should that not be finalized, perhaps having two resolutions. So, we'll have a lot more information in the coming weeks than we do tonight, but we just didn't want that to surprise you if, the plan we've had since day one, were to need to change.
Yeah, and this AB 195 language, it really reduces the amount that you can talk about the things that are already required, like the list of your capital projects, because it requires you to add all of this additional language. And they don't give you any extra words. And quite honestly, it adds to confusion. The whole idea of the legislation was to make it very clear to people what we were doing, but it's just causing a lot of confusion, which is why they're looking at emergency legislation to fix it for GO bonds. And that is the end, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next item, 13.1, is a discipline report, the monthly suspension report for the month of February. 14.1 is an action item. General functions is related to a trustee compensation for missed meetings. Okay, 14.1 is an action item, trustee compensation for a missed meeting by Ms. Twyman. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison and Trustee Garcia. Please vote. (14.1) has been approved, 4-0. Okay, our next item is 14.2, is an action item, resolution number 261718, school safety, related to the cornerstone and the guiding principles of putting the safety of our students and our staff, making it a top priority, and that safety of our students being the first and foremost. Do we have any comments or any? Oh, we make the motion first and then we can talk about it, right? Okay, do I have a motion? Trustee Stafford, Trustee Twyman. Okay, before we vote, do we have any questions or comments or anything that you would like to ask?
This was
Mr.
the
Bennett?
resolution that came down from, I believe it was CSBA, asking schools to promote, and I think, it makes sense, it's valuable, and it's what we need to be doing.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any comments by trustees? No? Okay, so please vote. Action item 14.2, resolution 26/1718, school safety has been approved 5-0. 14.3 is also an action item, certificated personnel action item. Do I have a motion? Trustee Stafford and Trustee Garcia. Please vote. Action item 14.3 has been approved 5-0. 14.4 is also an action item, personnel, classified personnel action items. Do I have a motion? Trustee Stafford, second. Ms. Twyman, Trustee Twyman. Please vote. Action item 14.4 has been approved 5-0. 14.5 is also an action item, personnel. The Perry Secondary Education Association, PSEA, is submitting its initial proposal to negotiate with the Perry Union High School District for the 2018-2019 school year. Do I have it's a public hearing? Okay. So before we make a motion, at this time, we are going to hold a public hearing to receive comments regarding this initial proposal to negotiate from the Paris Secondary Educators Association, PSEA, for the 2018-2019 school year. And we open this public hearing at 7:04 p.m. Do we have any members of the audience to have any comments? No? Okay, we are going to wait few seconds to see if we have somebody. Yeah, it is. 5 more seconds. Okay, this public hearing is closed at 7:05 p.m. Now, do I have a motion to approve this initial proposal? Trustee Nelson, Trustee Garcia, please vote. Action item 14.5 has been approved, 5-0. 14.6 is also an action item, is personnel. The Paris Junior High School District hereby submits its initial proposal to the Paris Secondary Educators Association, PSEA, for successor contract negotiations. It's also a public hearing. So at this, in few right now, we are going to be I'm opening this Board of Trustees to hold a public hearing to receive comments regarding the district's request to open successor negotiations with the Paris Secondary Educators Association for the 2018-2019 school year. And is at 7:06 before it changes to Okay. Do we have any comments? This public hearing is closed at 7:07 p.m. I'm sorry, we did a motion. Sorry. Personnel, take me to 14.6. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison and Trustee Stafford. Please vote. Action item 14.6 has been approved, 5-0. 14.7 is also an action item, revised salary schedule placement and administrator job descriptions. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison. Second. Trustee Garcia. Are there any comments or questions regarding this action item? It's not an open, okay. Okay, if there are no questions, please vote. Action item 14.7 has been approved, 5-0. 14.8 is also an action item, personnel, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Perris Union High School District and the California School Employees Association and its chapter Perris Valley 469 regarding the 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 classified work year calendars. Do I have a motion? Trustee Stafford, Trustee Nellison, please vote. (14.8) has been approved, 5-0. 14.9 is also an action item, personnel, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Perris Union High School District and the California School Employees Association and its chapter Perris Valley 469 regarding the 2018 retirement stimulus plan. Do I have a motion? Trustee Garcia and Trustee Nellison. Please vote. Action item 14.9 has been approved, 5-0. 14.10 is also an action item, approval of the 17-18 second interim financial report with a positive certification of the Perris Union High School District's financial condition. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nellison. Second. Trustee Twyman. Before we vote, we are going to have a presentation by Ms. Raines.
Yes, if you'd like. So my partner in crime, Alicia Fogarty, is not here tonight, so I'll wear both hats in giving the presentation. She's, like Diane Martin, is ill, and she could stand up here, but you wouldn't hear anything come out of her mouth. So I'll get started with our second interim report. Generally at this time of year, we like to also just give some highlights of the California state budget, specifically the proposal that the governor released in January for the 2018-19 budget. So we'll begin with the California state budget, and then we'll move into what that looks like for our second interim and multi-year projections. The governor's budget proposal includes $2.9 billion for the local control funding formula. That allows for complete closure of the gap between the 17-18 funding levels and provides for full implementation of LCFF. So that's good news because that's actually 2 years ahead of the original plan when LCFF was first introduced. It was to be fully implemented by 2020-21. Other good news is our base grant targets will be adjusted by a COLA of estimated COLA of 2.51%. And so that growth provides average increases in the per pupil funding of an estimated $550 per ADA or 5.8% for the average school district or charter school. There's an additional $1.8 billion in one-time funds that is proposed, and as per usual, those one-time funds are intended to offset the mandate reimbursement claims, and that equates to $295 per ADA, P2 ADA. So what does it look like as we're transitioning to full funding of LCFF? The 2017-18 Budget Act, so the year that we're in currently, funded LCFF at 97%, so we were almost there, but we have that just that little bit more to go up, and so that's good news. State law requires that LCFF-based grants receive a COLA, and so you can see there by year what the COLAs are projected for this year and through 2021. However, now that the LCFF target has been reached, now that we're at that 100% funding, the projection is that in terms of our increased revenue year over year, those would be COLA only. So we've probably heard me refer to COLA only years and the impact of that, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So while all that was good news, there are some challenges that we will face ahead and certainly can get through, but you know, it's our obligation to make sure that the board, of course, is aware of that. And so I'm sorry Cindy, if you're in the audience, but our special education population growth and student needs continue to increase, and both the population and the needs increase at a higher rate than we are growing overall in enrollment. So if you sort of could picture an alligator chart, the costs of special ed are here, whereas for our traditional district students are not. So that's certainly a challenge, leading to the second bullet point, because the contributions to restricted programs, primarily special education, continue to increase, and we don't get any additional funding beyond the COLA increase for the special education students. Another challenge, we've been dealing with this for a few years, or more than a few years, in fact, CalSTRS and CalPERS rates continue to increase, and there are not any additional funds from the state to offset those increases. The table on the right-hand side there shows the rates that the district has to pay each year, both for CalSTRS and for CalPERS. So you can see over the course of 3 increases, STRS goes from 14.43% up to 19.1%, and 15.5% for PERS up to 22.7%. So that's a significant impact to the budget. And so when we're looking at COLA only years, so on the previous slide you saw those COLAs were in the 2 to 3% range. And when we have increases every year to CalSTRS and CalPERS, we have step and column increases, we have increases to health and welfare, those costs are more than the new revenues of COLA. So that's just something that we need to be aware of and to plan for. And so what are the specific challenges both here at PUHSD and CMI? And I know this isn't the CMI board meeting, but they are a charter school, dependent charter school, and we're responsible for their fiscal oversight. So I thought it was a good idea to include that here. So our district, like other districts that have high unduplicated counts, and just as a reminder, an unduplicated count is a count of all of your students who are at poverty on free and reduced lunch, foster youth, and our EL students. That's what in the LCFF funding formula is made up of the unduplicated pupil count, or you'll sometimes hear it referred to as the UPP. And so we have a high unduplicated pupil count here in this district. And so we have enjoyed funding increases at a higher level than districts with a lower unduplicated pupil count. And so as that has occurred over the last several years, we've been able to do a lot of things for our students. We've been able to give pretty healthy salary increases to our employees, but now that we will be in COLA only years, it's going to cause us to have to stop and think and be just very, very strategic about each expenditure decision. And so what that looks like, for all of us in this room, me included, is managing expectations in the COLA only years. And again, new revenues won't cover the new costs, and that means planning for cuts, planning for budget savings, like the couple of agenda items previously, the retirement incentive that we're offering. That's one thing that we're doing to deal with these COLA only years. I've made this statement before, but there's no such thing as a good budget without an adequate reserve, as well as well thought out and long range planning and multi-year projections. We have a new high school opening someday. Hopefully that will be in 2021. Of course, it depends on funding and the other things that we've talked about earlier in the evening. And opening a high school will be costly. There'll be startup costs, which will be one time in nature, and then there will be, we have to staff the school, and so those are ongoing expenditures. So we will need to include those in the multi-year projection to make sure we have planned for that adequately. And so with that, I will get to not our 16-17 second interim, as that says, but our 17-18 interim. I hate when you notice a typo after you've looked at it so many times. I apologize for that. And so what does our LCFF calculation look like for our district? And this is for 2018-19. And so as a reminder, the way that calculation works is there are actually 4 grade spans of funding levels. There's 3 shown there because between CMI and the district, we cover 3 of those. And so we start off with a base grant per ADA. COLA is then applied to that base grant on the second line there. And then we get our 18-19 base grant per ADA, and you can see those amounts there. And then what happens is there's what's called a grade span adjustment, and this happens in 2 of the categories. One that does not apply to us, K3, that's for class size reduction, but the one that does apply to us is we get an additional 2.6% for the CTE grade span adjustment, and that's really just the recognition of the cost for CTE coursework, and so that's an add-on that we get. And so then we get our adjusted base grant per ADA, and then based on your unduplicated pupil count, in our district that's 74.18, we get supplemental dollars and we get concentration dollars. Those supplemental dollars, that's different for every district. You'll see our amount per student per grade span listed there. Supplemental for any of your, for districts that are over 20% unduplicated pupil, you get an additional 20% for each of those students. Concentration funds, you get 50% on your unduplicated pupil count, 55 and above. So it's a little bit tricky math. The state doesn't apply the same formula to both supplemental and concentration or the same methodology, but nonetheless you see our amounts there. And then our total LCFF funding per ADA. So for our 9 through 12, which is the majority of our population, that's $11,401 per ADA for next year. The one-time funds that I spoke about earlier, that's based on our 18-19 ADA at the $295 per student that I spoke of, and so you can see those amounts both for the district and for CMI. And our budget and multi-year assumptions. Our enrollment, we are projecting to increase just at 1% each of the years. And now I do want to make a point. For the budget, we want to make sure we're budgeting, conservatively. And so, however, we do know based on, development and other factors that housing and the population will very likely grow much faster than that. But we want to make sure we have a conservative budget based on more recent trends. Our ADA is budgeted at 93% of our enrollment. I do want to make a comment on ADA because it's so critical to our funding, and whenever there's volatility in that ADA, it can we can change our budget sometimes significantly. With the recent threats of violence that have been felt across the nation, we've seen a drop in ADA on a daily basis, depending on what's happening. And so we want to watch that very carefully so that we don't have surprises at the end of the year in terms of reconciling our funding. Also in our multi-year assumptions, the CalSTRS and the CalPERS rates that I mentioned earlier, and then our LCFF gap funding or closure rate. And so again, we're at 100% for both 18-19 and going forward. And so all of that leads to what does our multi-year projection summary look like for the unrestricted general fund. And so you will see our projection for second interim as well as for 2018-19 and 19-20. One thing I want to draw your attention to is in the current year, we are deficit spending by almost $5 million. That would certainly be a cause for concern if you see that, year after year. When you see it in a year, in a single year like you're seeing here, and what that means for our district is we're spending a one-time dollar. So what that means is the revenue is recognized
in the year prior when we received it, because the states had this trend for several years now. As they get closer to the end of the fiscal year and their revenues are higher, they then distribute that to us through our Proposition 98 guarantee in one-time dollars, and so we realize those at the end of the year oftentimes. And so another important thing I want to point out is if you look at our contributions in the current year, those are contributions to restricted programs. And again, Cindy, I'm sorry, the majority of that is special education. You can see that decreases next year. And so big kudos to our district and the efforts Cindy is leading in taking back our 18 to 22-year-old program. Not only are we providing, will we be providing better services for those students, but at a cost savings as well. And so that's certainly helpful to our budget as well as to the students and their education. So that's what our budget and multi-year projections look like. And then moving on to the components of our unrestricted general fund ending balance. And this is where I want to spend just a little bit of time because we've broken this down a little bit differently than we have traditionally. And so if you look in 2017-18, well, actually, if you look at all of the years, you can see what our total ending balance is, as well as the total ending balance percentage. We're just at 3.89%. As we've talked many times, we really try to be at 6% when we're looking at a reserve for economic uncertainties, and really that's only about a month of operating expenditures. But you can see the total ending balance there, and then the components are broken down just below that. And so for this year, as an example, the remaining one-time funds of almost $300,000. We've got some resource balances, risk management facility usage, our lottery funds. They're in the unrestricted general fund, but they do have strings tied to them in terms of how we've received them. Our revolving cash, and then our reserve for economic uncertainty. So you can see in the current year, while our total ending balance is 3.89%, our actual reserve for economic uncertainties is 3.22%. Moving over to 2018-19, our total ending balance is 5.49%. But by the time you look at the components of that, we actually drop down to 2.58%, which theoretically is less than the state's required reserve of 3%. And so that's definitely not a good place to be in for next year. Now, we do meet the requirements of the law because our total ending balance in the general fund is at that 5.49%. But again, all of those components outside of the reserve for economic uncertainty have strings attached to them in certain ways that we're supposed to spend them, or they're one-time in nature. And so that's, I bring that to your attention because it's a very important factor that we need to be paying close attention to as we're planning for and finalizing the 2018-19 budget. I spoke earlier of the retirement incentive, and so we think that that will be not only a great benefit for our employees, but also something that will help the district budget as well. Also here you'll see the 2020-21 year was added. We really are only supposed to show 3 years, but you can always project out farther. And so part of the reason we wanted to show this 4th year is because you also see our reserves coming back up. So that's a good thing in terms of the overall budget. But also, again, High School 4 potentially hopefully opening in the 2021 school year. That's just one more year beyond this multi-year that's showing. So even though we would be at 5.98%, very, very close to the 6% that we would strive for, the very next year we would have an additional $1.9 million of ongoing costs in terms of opening that school. The year after that, an additional $900,000, and the year after that, an additional $900,000. And so my recommendation in terms of having a well-prepared budget, as I indicated earlier, is, of course, having adequate reserves and a strong plan moving forward. And so what we're looking for is either a savings or a cut of about $500,000 for next year. And so if you if I could draw your attention to the Reserve for Economic Uncertainties, the almost $3.3 million that makes up the 2.58%. That $500,000, if that were increased by that, that would then roll over to the next year, turn into $1 million, roll into the next year, turn into 1.5, and we're well on our way in terms of planning for that high school. We would then be asking the board, when you adopt the budget, to commit that ending balance. So we would then see another line on the components of the ending balance as specifically earmarked for high school 4. And so that's the recommendation in terms of having a strong budget that can meet our needs, going forward. And knowing we have that expenditure, even though it is 4 or 5 years out, and we only really need to look at by state law 3 years, it really is important to look at more years of the multi-year projection, especially given that at this time. Okay, so next steps, last slide. We recommend a positive certification for the second interim. That certifies that we will meet our financial obligations for the current and 2 fiscal years subsequent to that. We'll be seeing the governor provide a revision to his January budget proposal this May. That's what we would build the final budget on, is whatever those projections are. So if any of those factors that I told you in the beginning of the presentation change, we would update that as well. And then the 2018-19 budget would be presented to the board for adoption in June. June 4th is the public hearing and presentations that happen both for the budget and LCAP. June 20th is when that's presented to you for final adoption. And again, that final budget would include a committed or assigned fund balance reservation for high school 4. And that concludes my presentation, unless there are questions.
Any questions? No.
Sorry, I know that was a little bit lengthy, but we had some important things to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reines. Okay, so if we can please vote. Action item 14.10 has been approved, 5-0. 14.11 is also an action item, business, addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional consultant services with Will Hyde and Associates, funded through safety credits, not the general fund. Do I have a motion? Trustee Garcia, Trustee Nelson. Before we vote, are there any comments or any information, Mr. Bennett?
Well, this is to extend the consultant contract with Will Hyde and Associates to do the safety and security work we're looking at, building our policies and procedures manual, setting up training for our campus supervisors, doing the training for our campus supervisors, and doing threat assessment on campus and other duties as assigned. So we're looking forward to that coming forward to help us with our campus safety and security.
Okay, thank you. So basically, this is one of the first steps to approach to increase the safety of our staff and our students, right? Providing the training and resources for them to do the job, right? One of the things that we were talking about, or making a comment, is that it is also important to keep in mind that it's not only about providing the professional development of the training, but focusing on the implementation of the training and the monitoring of the implementation of the training is going to be key, right? Not only at the beginning. And I learned this, this applies to any concept, not only to safety. This was one of the elements that I brought also from the good teaching practices from CTA, that is not only about the training. The most important thing is the implementation and the monitoring of the implementation, what is going to make a program successful. Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yes, I agree with this 14.11 There was a couple of things that I want to make sure that we do that I did discuss with Grant and he addressed, and I'm satisfied with those things. Just want to make sure that we see that we meet the requirements, you know, the state requirements that the campus
Right.
supervisors are required to make.
That's what part of this program will guarantee, that our campus supervisors will be trained to the level that is required by Ed Code.
And that the board just gets.
And actually, we were gonna push even further than that, to have more training for them than just as what's required.
And regular updates to the board as to how
Yes.
we're doing. And I think there was one other thing. The manual, the
Right, the
security
policies and procedure manual.
Policies, procedures.
That'll be the first thing that I'll be working on, other than the threat assessment.
Okay. And just would, hopefully, this will also include training documentation that's done through this whole process, so we have this documented.
Right.
That we've gone through this process, so we're able to take the next steps we want to take, and we're confident that we have fulfilled the building of this program, and not just coating it over with some money, which I believe you've addressed here. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Trustee Twyman? Trustee Nelson? Trustee Garcia? Okay, thank you. So if we can please vote. Okay, action item 14.11 has been approved, 5-0. 15.1 is an information item, curriculum, new career technical education courses, maintenance and light repair 1 and 2, and it meets the A3 requirements. 15.2, information item related to curriculum, new career technical education courses, international cuisine, meets A3E requirements. 15.3, curriculum, new career technical education courses under the arts, media, and entertainment pathway, meets A3E requirements. 15.4, curriculum also, 3-year career technical education courses under the law enforcement public safety pathway, and meets the A3E requirements. 15.5, information item from business, a revolving cash report for the month of February 2018. 15.6, information, board policies, business and non-instructional operation, series 3000. 15.7, information, board policies, personnel, series 4000. 15.8, information item, board policies, facilities, series 7000. And our last item, 16.1, a closed session if necessary, action item.
Not necessary this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. 17.1 is not applicable, reconvening public session. 18.1 is an action item, discipline, board review of discipline matters. Do I have a motion? Trustee Garcia? Trustee Staffer? Please vote. Action item 18.1 has been approved, 5-0. 19.1 information item, other items by the superintendent.
I just had one item. I would like to get direction from the board. We're out doing the information meetings about the new high school down in Menifee. And I'd like to, if the board please, to start working on naming the school. I think it would help us as we're going through that it makes it real. Instead of just calling high school number 4. We have board policy on how that works, but I would just like it, if the board pleases, to start working on that process to name the school.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea.
It's always been an abstract idea
Yeah.
since they came up with needing it, but now it's going to be a lot more concrete with the name. So
Exactly.
I'm fully on board with that.
Okay, very good.
Definitely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. The next item, information item 20.1, other items by the Board of Trustees. Mr. Trustee Staffer? Trustee Twyman? Trustee Nelson?
Yeah, I wanted to let you. I went to the CIF Southern Section Championship game that our girls soccer team, Paloma Valley, won, And I just wanted to say awesome job to the girls. I know they're not here, but if you can relay my congratulations, and they did an awesome job. And unfortunately, they did wind up losing in shootouts to the same team like 2 weeks later. But they did an awesome job this year, so I really appreciate their hard work they put in this year.
Trustee Garcia?
I just want to address really quickly, well, I don't know if it's quickly, but in regards to CSEA and PSEA's concern, we take, well, all of us take the safety of everyone very seriously. And like I told you last time, we were listening because we know what's in the works, so we have to take action as, you know. But I want you to know, even though some of us aren't exactly on the same page, we're all on the same page moving forward. And I still believe that we need a director of some sort. So I'm not going to give up on that because I want to make sure everybody feels safe here, especially our students. So I'm reaching out and I want you to know I'm committed in helping you out any way possible.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Yes, in reference of your comment, I think we are on the same page, and we mentioned we have the same objective. So we completely agree on the what, right? So the small discrepancies are in the how we accomplish that and what is the way that we are going to accomplish it. We have taken tonight the first step. That is, I think we are moving forward in that direction. It is a big step in adding the fact that we are committed not only to provide the training, but that monitoring of the implementation that is going to be the key. Because it doesn't make that much sense to talk about things and we are going to do this if they are not really happening, right? So we need to make sure that those strategies, that training, that those behaviors that we are expecting from everybody, right, that they are really done the way that they are supposed to happen or to be there. So just to reiterate that, we are on the same page on that perspective, on the what. We are working a little bit on the how, and that is important, right? Also to have different perspectives, different opinions. The bottom line is that we are focusing on reaching our ultimate goal. Thank you. And the last item is 21.1. That is an action item to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nelson. Trustee Stafford. Please vote. Action item 21.1 has been approved, and this regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of Perris Union High School District is adjourned at 7:39 p.m.